Hello everyone, and welcome back to Automobilista 2. Finally, we're back in Automobilista 2. Finally, we've got some new content that I can drive. Actually, I say that, there has been other content that has released. I've just been lazy and busy and haven't got around to it. But this is something that I think is pretty important to talk about, because two things have happened since I last drove this game on the channel. Firstly, there's been a ton of updates to the game. Small ones, incremental ones, but they all add up. This game, in a lot of ways, feels different to how it did before. And I'll explain more of that while I'm driving. But secondly, GT3 cars are probably the most popular type of cars in sim racing. They're not my favourite. So don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be giving these cars a glowing review just because I love GT3 cars. If I like these cars, it's because AMS2 is doing something particularly good. So, we're here at the Nürburgring GP circuit, the Vidol, the GT chicane version, and we're going to do 5 laps. We're starting from the back. Let's see what we can do, and let's see if the AI decide to murder me into turn 1, which, spoilers, they still like to do. Okay, didn't miss the lights, got a decent launch. The AI use a lot of traction control, it seems, so it's quite easy to just kind of send it past them on the start. But what I don't want to do is go barreling into turn 1. Okay, go barreling into turn 1. And collect one of them at the apex. As we go around the outside, that's a bit of a cheeky Alex Albon kind of move. Could we go up the inside here? We can. Alright, we're in business. Okay, we're just going to take the exit. I don't like going wide there, I feel like I'm cheating, but he hit me, so I'm going wide. I do what I want. Okay, oh, yeah, well, I returned the favour. The AI is still not brilliant in terms of spatial awareness, but to be honest, I don't know how you make AI good in terms of spatial awareness, because it's something that most human sim drivers struggle with, so I'd be impressed if they weren't. Anyway, these cars, what are they like? Well, I have only driven the AMG. Okay, so all of my thoughts are going to be based on the AMG, and the reason that I've only driven the... Oh, I'm over here. Thank you. Anyway, the reason that I've only driven the AMG, and the reason I'm going to base all my thoughts solely on this car, is because it is the car in all of sim racing, in terms of GT3. It's the GT3 car that I've spent by far the most time in. To be honest, it's the only one that I've spent a decent amount of time in any sim, and it's just because I picked it early on, I liked it, and I stuck with it. There are other GT cars that are good. There are other GT cars in this game that I'm sure are good. But to be honest, my opinion on them would be worthless because I've not driven them in any other game substantially. Like, I vaguely know how, I don't know, the Audi's supposed to drive compared to other games, but not really, and plus that car's not in this game, so... How do they drive? They drive like GT3 cars, you'll be pleased to know. I hopped in this car about an hour ago for my first drive, as we do a big old drift out of that corner. Yeah, I hopped in this car about an hour ago. I've been driving it since, and I can't say that I struggled to get some laps in. I got into the 55s, which I was okay with. It's not the quickest pace in the world, but that's decent, especially for me, considering that GT3 cars are really not my cup of tea. They are really not what I excel at. I am a Formula driver. I mean, I'm not brilliant in Formula cars either, but I'm a hell of a lot better in Formula cars than I am in GT cars, as evidenced by the few sort of esportsy events that I've tried to qualify for involved with GT cars. Way off the pace. But I can't say that I can't say that I'm disliking driving these cars. However, then there is quite a big however. Even taking out of the equation the fact that I'm not a GT3 fan, I turned into early there, that was a bit dangerous. Even taking out the equation that I'm not the biggest GT3 fan, and taking out of the equation that I'm not very good in them. Is this game where I expected it to be this many months after release? Not really. That was another big old drift. I think I need to stop using first gear. It's not really working well for me. I can't catch up with these guys. We've got a bit of a train going on where nobody can seem to overtake. Okay. We'll just hop over the exit there. Yeah, so there are some nuances to the handling in this game which have always felt a little bit odd. It's usually mid-corner, I've found. The way that the game communicates oversteer to you, especially, is a big problem. Okay, oh no, please, no, don't do that, don't do that. No, get back on the... Jesus Christ. And now the AI are pushing me off the track as well. Well, that serves me right for talking crap about the game. So, yeah. The way the game communicates oversteer to you, mid-corner, it loves to... Okay. It loves to kind of give you this weird notch in the steering where you're turning, and there's a bump in the force feedback where it kind of gets more before it gets less, okay? So like before the understeer kicks in, okay? And at that point, where the force feedback increases, is where the rear tyres start to slip. And so, you can find yourself with... It's not necessarily oversteer, because it doesn't necessarily, you know, end in you sliding, but it's certainly a rotation in the car. And it ends up, because of the way that the sound kind of communicates the fact that it sounds like the front tyres are scrubbing, which they probably are, because you're almost on the limit of grip. And the way that the camera moves, which I'm going to mention in a moment, it feels like you hit a point where suddenly the front tyres gain grip for no reason. Which I'm sure they don't, because that would be a pretty fundamental issue with the physics engine. And I have gone through and kind of investigated this in the cars that I'm more familiar with. I am off the pace, I apologise for this horrendous showing this race. I have tried to investigate this and see what is actually happening. You know, using videos of myself driving and using telemetry on board to see what is actually happening. And I can't really figure it out. I believe it's more of a force feedback... It's more of a driver issue, definitely, but it's... I think in terms of the game, I think it's more of a force feedback problem than a physics problem. But I don't know, it just makes the game very unnerving to push in. I think that the physics of a game when you're driving at 80% are not really a good indicator of the quality of the sim. I think that stuff really shows when you're absolutely pushing on the ragged edge, which I'm going to attempt to do on this last lap to see if we can catch anybody. And in this game, with any of the cars, including this, but for me it's more noticeable with some of the older Formula cars like the Formula V12, the Formula V10. Okay, that was bad. When you are pushing, you just don't... It doesn't inspire confidence at all. I've not found a car and track combination yet where I can feel like I can really reliably push. You know, go back to the pits and change setup. Feel like I can really attack the circuit without... Oh god, I almost binned it again because I'm braking too late into that corner. Yeah, I just don't get the confidence from it, and I think it is a communication issue. On the camera, that's one massive improvement, massive improvement. They've added a new option to turn off the legacy camera motion. Legacy camera motion, with that mode on, it's basically the same as Project Cars 2's setting. But with that off, what you'll see now is that I don't get all of the tiny bumps and vibrations translating to the camera, but the camera is not locked to the horizon. So I don't have to deal with that weird, like, looking up and down as I go up and down slopes, which is lovely, especially for VR users. But anyway, that is the end of a fairly mediocre, fairly slow, fairly poorly driven 5-lap race here at the Nürburgring GP circuit. And I hope that I did manage to kind of... Hello AI, hello, nice to meet you. I hope that I did manage to communicate some of the things that I wanted to say about this game. Don't get me wrong, I do still think this game is good quality. I do still think that it has decent physics, and I think that it is very fun. Am I happy with the state of it? Not fully. Is it my new main sim like I hoped it would be? Definitely not. But it's got GT3 cars now, and they're perfectly competent GT3 cars. They're by no means just like Project Cars 2 rips. They don't feel like those cars at all. They feel more like ACC's cars than anything else. So if you like GT3 and you want to drive GT3 all day, then you can. I think for everybody else though, as we go for a bit of an excursion off the track there, for everybody else, I don't think AMS2 has got what we're looking for. I'd hope that by this point they would have ironed out all the kinks, but they just kind of haven't. So on that fairly disappointing note, I hope you all enjoyed. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you all next time.